The head of Libya's National Assembly says he'll be stepping down following the passing of the political isolation law. The law bans anyone who held a senior post during the rule of Muammar Gaddafi from being in government. Mohamed Magharif announced his resignation in a televised speech to Congress. Critics and diplomats fear the new law could strip the Libyan government of experienced leaders and further complicate the political transition process. The first deputy now assumes office in an acting capacity until an election for a successor is held.
He gave an example that we respect, and he made it clear that the reason was the political isolation law. So he sent a message to all state employees at the Congress or the government or other different departments included in this law.
Moving on to Niger now, where French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius has pledged his country's support against what he says is a growing terrorism threat in the region. This follows an incident where suicide bombers attacked a French-run uranium mine in the country's north last week. CCTV's Maria Galang has the story.
Following talks in Niger's capital with President Mamadou Issoufou, the French foreign minister said there were signs that lawlessness in southern Libya, which borders Niger, was creating a new safe haven for extremist groups in the Sahara.
Of course, that still needs to take shape. But it seems we must take a special effort with southern Libya, which is also what Libya wants. We have spoken about the initiatives which can be taken by neighboring countries in liaison with Libya.
According to Nigerian authorities, the militant group that carried out Thursday's attack on an Areva mine and a military barrack in northern Niger, which killed 25 people, had come from Libya. Tripoli has since denied Niger's claims.
We, the French people, would like to remain here in Niger because Niger is a friendly country, because Niger is a country that both gives to France and that also needs us, because the Nigerian authorities have been extremely brave in the fight against terrorism. I must stress that.
Thursday's attacks in Niger have been claimed jointly by Bel Mokhtar Molathamin's brigade and the MUJWA militant group, which formed part of the Islamist coalition, which seized northern Mali last year. A 5-month French-led military campaign in Niger's western country Mali has broken Islamist hold over the northern two-thirds of the country, killing hundreds of al-Qaeda-linked fighters and pushing others across the border into neighboring nations. Maria Galang, CCTV.
Regional conflict experts are warning that the deployment of a United Nations intervention brigade to eastern DRC could result in even greater instability in the region. One DR Congo conflict researcher says the situation in Goma is very volatile and that a lot of people in the North Kivu province are concerned about what will happen if M23 rebels clash with the UN force. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon last week said the intervention brigade would be deployed to eastern DRC in weeks. Here's CCTV's Isabel Nakiria with more details.
The UN hopes the deployment of an intervention brigade can calm the situation in eastern DRC. But in Goma, there are real concerns that the fate of civilians has not been properly considered. Speaking on telephone from Goma, one conflict researcher says it's civilians that will suffer if more planning is not done.
I mean, as of now, the UN has been in the country for 10 years, and they do have protection of civilian programs in place. And I understand that they're also very diligently trying to improve on these protection mechanisms. But certainly, I mean, there is a risk, there's a serious risk that many people will be displaced if this deployment of the military intervention brigade goes wrong and is not properly coordinated and well planned.
The war in Congo has left over 900,000 people displaced and seeking refuge in neighboring countries, according to various estimates from research groups. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on his recent visit to Kampala said he regretted the situation in eastern DRC and could not wait to have the intervention brigade deployed. The Congolese M23 group has accused the UN of a deliberate move to attack them by deploying the UN intervention brigade. 3,000 troops from Tanzania, Malawi and South Africa make up the brigade that has started arriving in Goma. Mr. Ban last week appealed to the rebels to abandon armed rebellion and return to the discussion table in Kampala. But he stressed that the UN Intervention Brigade would protect civilians.
This force of 3,000 troops has a robust mandate to enforce peace and protect civilians. It will be fully operational in a matter of weeks. But that is only one element of a broader political process. A peace deal must deliver a peace dividend, health, education, jobs, and opportunity.
It's feared the Congolese army and M23 rebels could clash again, and this leaves tens of thousands at risk. In recent clashes, at least 9 people died. But despite his concerns, Timo Mwela says with proper planning, all hope is not lost. Last week, the M23 appealed for immediate cessation of hostilities to enable Mr. Ban's visit, which they said could be a good gesture to enable both parties sign a peace deal. Despite appeals by the UN chief for the Congo government and the M23 rebels to come back to the discussion table, this has not yet happened. Now, conflict experts said this leaves a lot of anxiety hanging over Congo. Isabel Nakiria, CCTV, Kampala.
A group of young Egyptians have launched what they're calling the Rebellion Campaign. They aim to collect signatures from the public to put pressure on Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi to step down. They're scheduled to hold a press conference later on Wednesday to give an update of their Tamarad campaign and the launch of their online platform. The movement's been criticized by Islamic groups who argue it doesn't have any legal basis. Egyptian media reports that the campaign has garnered some 3 million signatures as of last week. Now, joining us now is CCTV's Adil Marouki live from Egypt's capital, Cairo. Adil, what we've heard so far is that the Islamic groups say that this movement has no legal basis, while on the other hand, the campaigners or the organizers of the campaigners say they've had members arrested, imprisoned, and they even talk about assaults. What's the reality on the ground there in Cairo?
Well, basically, so far, all the Tamarud campaign or the Rebellion campaign members are seeking that, or they believe that they have a constitutional right to pursue their demands by pushing President Morsi out of power. And they say that according to the Constitution, it says that the people are the source of legislation in Egypt and the source for democracy. And therefore, what they're trying to do is collect 15 million votes by June 30th to have more numbers of votes than any part or any phase of the presidential elections itself, and therefore show that they have this trust. However, there is also the Muslim Brotherhood who doubt the methodology by which they are collecting the signatures. There have been reports and people coming on the national media saying that they have signed more than just one petition. So it means that generally there will be a legal debate on how effective this will be. Analysts, on the other hand, they believe that it is a sign of, it is a political sign and has a political measurements to show a state of discontent among some Egyptian sectors, which is the main part and the main driver for the force of rebellion to make it spread among the opposition lines in Egypt. But of course, the president's supporters, they believe that this is not proper to try to push away a president who has been elected democratically.
Now, Adil, as you'd mentioned there, June 30th is the anniversary of President Morsi's ascent to power, and of course a deadline there for campaigners to get those signatures. There's already been 3 million signatures collected and the campaign is just a month old. Do you think it's likely that they'll be able to put pressure on President Morsi's administration?
Well, what we have seen happening is that the numbers are increasing according, of course, to the rebel campaign members themselves. There is no way to double check these numbers except to take their own statements. So putting this aside, the numbers, according to the rebel campaign, has been increasing exponentially, and therefore we believe that maybe by today, where they will announce a new number, there has been rumors about saying 7 million signatures. Of course, we will have this confirmation later on, but yet it means that they're trying to push a wave of opposition to show through the Egyptian media there is a state of discontent, and they're trying to use the whole agreement from all opposition political sects to choose the June 30th as a day to protest at the presidential palace itself, to gather as much people as they can at the presidential palace at that day. On the other hand, of course, we have the Muslim Brotherhood members trying to launch a counter campaign to show support for the president himself. So June 30th will be a great political battle on the ground. Many expect that the numbers of protesters will be unprecedented through the whole past year. Of course, it is time that will only show us how will this be accurate.
All right, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. Adil Mahrouki coming to us live from Cairo, giving us the latest on opposition campaigns in Egypt. Well, it's time now for a quick break, but when we come back, fruits of stability, why the Somali president is confident about his country's development agenda. And up for grabs, a South African artist seeks a local buyer for huge Mandela portrait.
Breaking news, global trends. CCTV News brings you stories with the different aspects of Africa in the international content. With our reporters across Africa and all over the world, we'll tell you about the real Africa and how it impacts the world. Africa Live, every day, only on CCTV News.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Now, the Somali government under President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud says it's possible for the country to achieve peace and stability, even though the road ahead may be tough. Following the recent London conference on Somalia, things look more promising for the country compared to any other time in its recent history. The international community has pledged more than $300 million for the country's development agenda. Here's CCTV's Guram Chawla with the story.
At the close of half a century, characterized by a history of conflict for Africa, there appears to be hope for change and transformation. And for Somalia, the times are even better as the federal government of the country, under the presidency of Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, is striving to keep the country focused on the path of stability. At a press conference, Mr. Mahmoud said the recent London conference, which brought together several leaders of Africa together with the British Prime Minister David Cameron, was a success.
And the results we received at the London conference was beyond our expectation. There are around $300 million that have been pledged to Somalia for the first time. And this has been pledged on the basis of the plans that we put on the table.
The government of Somalia presented its plan of stabilizing the country at the IGAD Heads of State Summit a few weeks ago here in Addis Ababa. And according to this plan, the government wants to build regional districts, stimulate the justice system to function well, and empower the service delivery in the country. Of course, peace and security remain top in the agenda.
The government of Somalia has a very clear plan on how to stabilize the country. We have a sequence of steps or phases that we want this country to become stable, starting from right now where we are until we get one man, one vote by the end of 2016.
While Somalia's recovery has been aided by intervention from its neighbors, there appears to be emerging challenges, especially over the role of Kenya in stabilizing the southern region.
For us, we have no any complaint against Kenya, but parties of AMISOM contingent in the ground has misbehaved, and they operated outside their mandate. And this issue, we are in discussion with the African Union.
While Al-Shabaab threat is yet to be fully eliminated, the progress of the nation when it comes to securing the nation, as well as getting much better, wider international acceptance and attention, is something to be optimistic about. The security situation of Somalia is no more a threat for itself only. And understanding the imminent threat of extremism and terror that is being hushed in pockets of Somalia, almost all of the countries of the region under IGAD are providing support in search of lasting peace. And many say, for this reason, Somalia can be taken as an example of the emerging success of finding Africa's solution for Africa's problem. Grumjala, CCTV, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Africa's iconic leader Nelson Mandela will mark his 95th birthday in July. And as part of the build-up, a large portrait of the former president by South African artist Paul Blomkamp is up for sale. Now, despite 3 international offers to purchase the painting, Blomkamp insists on holding out for a South African offer. Susan Mangeli reports.
The South African artist has created what he believes is the biggest ever portrait of the former statesman. He says it measures 4.2 by 4.2 meters in size.
I'm painting an energized stripe of love, and the blue could be of peace, that could be of forgiveness, another. And it's the way I'm putting these qualities together to make a complete painting. And Madiba and lots of amazing people, they know how to put these qualities together and become amazing beings that offer hope and optimism for all of us.
The Mandela portrait will be auctioned in a month's time. The artist says it took 14 months to complete the artwork, which consists of acrylic paints on 9 individual canvases.
3 paintings comprise 9 canvases each, so we have to erect this on a little framework, take them up, take them down. We have to put the chin at the bottom and the head on top, and because I can't fit it all in at one go, there's a lot of sort of rearranging. But whatever I'm painting up there, what I'm painting down there might come only 6 months later, but it's still got to be connected. So you've got to think a year ahead of what you're doing.
The Mandela project isn't the first big project by Blomkamp. He has also created paintings of Oprah Winfrey and Richard Branson. Although Blomkamp has been getting offers from abroad, he hopes to sell the portrait to a local buyer. He, however, hopes it could ultimately be donated to the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, which will soon be built in Johannesburg.
We could get a buyer who would be wonderful enough to donate it to the new Nelson Mandela Hospital. And, you know, we've got our children who will go to the hospital, but in 10 years' time, 50 years' time, in 200 years' time, little people are going to go and see this amazing smile and his energy will still radiate out to them.
Blomkamp found acclaim at the age of 19 when he was commissioned to produce the largest stained glass window in the world. He is currently working on another Mandela-inspired project dubbed Mandela Head in the Karoo, which will be an arrangement of shrubs in a 50 square kilometer replicate of the face of South African freedom hero. Susan Mongeli, CCTV.